Hello, everyone, and welcome to our topic today. I'm Belinda Ellsworth, and we are going to talk about the 10 greatest gifts I give my child. So today's a little bit on raising your children well so that they grow up into amazing adults. And I talked about this last week when I told the story about my daughter and having my kids, so 20 years apart. So I currently have a 41-year-old daughter, I have a 39-year-old son, and I have a 21-year-old daughter. So that's my children's ages right now. And when I had my first two children, I was pretty young. And I would honestly say that I was learning as I was going. And that is what a lot of parents do, right? And then you think certain things are super important. And then you realize as time goes on that, they might not have been as important as you thought. I know one of the big things I learned along the way in raising a family and working my business. So is that there's a myth that if I just work really, really hard right now, that I'll have more time for them later, or I will be able to provide a better life for them later. And the one piece of advice that I would give to all of you is that there is never, when you're on a journey, especially with your career or your business, there's never like that end point. There never comes a point where you're like, okay, I've reached that point and now I don't have to work anymore. I don't have to do anything anymore. And so because of that, it's always going to change. It's going to get different reiterations of it. Like you're going to have to make pivots and things are going to change, and you might just have to start a whole new career. I mean, that is what happens, right? And we can't predict what that future is going to hold. So that myth of if I work really hard right now, then I'll have more time later. I have to make all these sacrifices now so that I can provide them a better life later. And what I've learned along the way is don't make the sacrifices now. I mean, there are a few little sacrifices that you've got to make along the way, but you can't miss everything. You can't miss every single soccer game and every single life experience because you are working hard and you're building something for your family's future, and then you don't even get to enjoy it while it was happening. And then the next thing you know, you haven't built the relationship that you need to build, and the foundation isn't there. So that's the first big myth before we really dive into that. If I had one piece of advice, and I learned that the second time around, it was like, no, enjoy every single moment along the way. Work is going to be there tomorrow no matter what. Like, work is still going to be there tomorrow. You'll still get to do that next thing. The next biggest and greatest thing is still always going to happen. But your kids are going to only age and they're going to be gone. And then it's going to be, you don't feel like you've got those opportunities to instill the things that you'd really like to instill. So that's the first thing that if I had to impart anything, and that I do impart with new parents, is don't sacrifice everything for this job thinking you're doing it for them for later. Do the things for them now while you're building your career. You can do both. You can do both. You just don't sacrifice everything to do one over the other. That's the difference. And there is never going to be an end point. That's what I learned. Like, no matter what, like I said before, you're as good as the gig you did yesterday. I'm going to have to keep moving. I'm going to have to keep creating. I'm going to have to keep doing, meeting new clients, doing new things. And so there is no end point where you're like, now I can dedicate this time to my family. You just got to do both. You just have to do both at the same time. So one of the books that I happened to read probably when my other children were already into their teens, and that was the 10 greatest gifts I give my child. So this is when I was doing book reviews every single week, and we put it out in a newsletter, and it was part to our community. And so I was reading a ton, and I would try to do things for family, then I would try to have things for business and like money investing. Like, I just was really involved in this book club and reading a book a week and doing a book review and giving people footnotes so they could just like see, oh, that book sounds interesting. I might want to go grab that. So one of the books I came across was by Steven Van Noy, and it is The 10 Greatest Gifts I Give My Child. And when I read that book, I was just like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have had this book sooner. Like, I wish I would have read this earlier. And so then when I had my daughter, like I said, my children are 20 years apart, I was like, these are some of the principles that I'm going to raise her by. Like, these are the things I'm going to change. And some of them I was doing anyway. Like, I'm not going to say I wasn't doing any of them, but I really made this sort of a guiding sort of principle in doing that. And so I just wanted to share some of those with you, because sometimes what we think is really important in raising our kids, like, it's the values that's going to make them into amazing adults that is going to carry them so much further. So the first one is self-esteem. Self-esteem, fostering a healthy sense of self-worth in children. And there is a difference between self-confidence and self-esteem. So self-confidence comes from learning and doing things again and again. So as you become an adult, like, you can gain self-confidence, right? Your self-esteem comes from your interactions in your relationships and the way that that was instilled in you. And so it's really important, if we want our children to grow up with a great sense of self-esteem, that we instill that in them when they're very young. So making sure, instead of, it's like leading with the carrot instead of the stick. It's like you are praising them, telling them what their good attributes are, instead of spending all your time going, no, you did that wrong, or let me show you how I can do that better, or here's a learning point. Like, a lot of parents, like, when their kids are doing something, here, let me show you how to do that in a better way. Let me show you how this can be done different. And what we're doing is we're taking away, we think we're learning and teaching so that they can grow and learn how to do things better. And sometimes they have to learn how to do some things on their own. And so what we want to be is an encourager to telling them, wow, this was really great, and making them feel good about what they did. And then maybe just showing, here's another idea, or here's another way, instead of saying, here, let me show you how to do this the right way. Let me show you how a better way to do this. And so we want to make sure that we are making kids feel safe, that we are making them feel like having a sense of self-worth, that what they're doing matters, that who they are matters, that how they show up, and that we love them just exactly for who they are. Another way to sort of destroy self-esteem is always trying to teach kids to be better. Now, we think we're doing the right things by teaching them to be better, but are we doing it at the expense of, you're not good enough? So when people don't grow up with a good self-esteem, is they feel like nothing that they do is good enough. So make sure that you're instilling that self-worth and self-esteem in your children. Compassion. One of the things that we want to teach our children is compassion for other things, for other people. And so caring about something. And one of the ways that I have found, we never had pets when I was growing up. And so with my first two children, when I didn't have any pets, I was the no pet household. That's just how I felt about it. So then when I had my daughter, and then I remember we went over to my sister-in-law's house, and their cat had just had all these kittens. And she was like, oh, I want a kitten. I want a kitten. And every fiber of my being was like, oh, like, I don't want, like, I'm a no pet household. And I just thought, you know what? Having a pet and having a pet to care for, that's one of the ways that you can help build compassion with children. So we got that cat for her when she was 2, and she learned to take care of the cat, and she learned to love the cat. And so what other things can you give them to sort of take care of or have compassion? Another way is to allow your kids to, see other things. If you can't travel and have them see other ways that people live, then allow them to go in, spend a day and do volunteer work at a particular, it could be in a shelter, it could be at a kid's. Let them have somebody that they are sort of either sharing in that life or giving to somebody else, and to see a different lifestyle other than what they have. So what ways can you help instill compassion in your children, helping them to care about others? I think, right now with how divided everything is in our country, and you look at where people are, if what's missing is in so many situations is just human decency and compassion for other human beings. And how sometimes I look and say, how can people even feel the way that they feel? Well, obviously, this was not instilled in people. Like, when I'm talking to different people and they have such a strong opinion about, oh, that's just, it is what it is, and they shouldn't be there anyway, and whatever the case is. And you're just like, do you have not an ounce of compassion in your body? Like, how is that missing? And it's sometimes surprising at people that you think you really know, and there's zero compassion for humanity or for individuals. And so what kinds of ways can we instill in our children to grow up being more compassionate, because they're going to grow up to be better adults and human beings for society in general? They're also going to treat children better, like in school, their friends. So teaching them how, like when maybe a friend is going through a rough time, teaching them how they can show up for that friend. Like, well, your friend is really having a hard time, and this is going on with them, and so you need to be a little bit understanding or be a little bit kinder, and maybe she can't help that right now. And so then they understand life from another viewpoint than than the one that they have, or that their other kids in their classroom are talking about. So make sure that you're having conversations with your kids about the way that people are treated and about why that's important. Because if we're not teaching them this when they're young, about the way that we treat others and the compassion that we have for them, they're not going to grow up and suddenly have it. The third one is balance. So helping children find a healthy balance in varying aspects of life. And so I would say to you, yes, we want our kids to have experiences and we want them to try different things. I'm all for that, and being in different sports and being in different things, but don't load up your kids with so many activities, and so their time schedule is just running from one thing to the next thing, that they don't get to just enjoy life. So make sure that you don't get overloaded in, oh, I've got to let them do this, or let's sign up for this class. Well, you could also be in this. And I listen to parents going, oh, 5 days a week, we have this on this day, this on this day, this on this day. And like, where do they ever get to come home and just relax? Where do they ever get to just play with their friends? Where do they ever get to, like, you've got to have room for that, or they're not going to have a well-balanced life. That's kind of that race to nowhere. Like, we're running and running, and we don't have time to just enjoy the relationships or the people around us. And sometimes I wonder, I think when parents put their kids, and I've always had my kids in activities, so don't get me wrong. I think kids need to be active and busy and need to try things to find what they're good at. And they also need to have, keep them busy so that they're, in with like-minded people. And like, so all these things matter for sure. I'm talking about, and it when you get into conversations, and parents just feel like they have to fill up all their time. And I think sometimes part of that is because what else are they going to do? Well, they could have some really great quality time with you, and you could have things planned, excursions planned, or things that you're going to do that take them to a museum or take them somewhere else instead of having every minute of their day being in different sports activities or other type of structured activity. That's a good way to word it, structured activities. All right, the next one is humor. Like, you have got to allow your kids to be funny and to laugh and to do silly things. So many parents, we would sometimes, I would be here and sometimes I would just be going, I dance party. And so then we'd play music and everybody would get up in the floor and dance, and it was just fun. And then we'd laugh or we'd be silly, and we've always instilled making jokes and sharing funny jokes, even when they're, dumb dad jokes. But it's you've got to instill humor and be able to laugh wholeheartedly, and find things that are funny and encourage your kids to be funny. I see parents going, oh, don't be so silly. Well, you know what? Why not? Why not allow them? You've got to allow them to find that humor in situations and be silly and to laugh and enjoy themselves in that way. Not 100% of the time, but my goodness, are you I see parents doing it all the time. Oh, you don't need to be so silly. It's well, they're just being a kid. And we want to instill that silliness and that fun and that playfulness so that they can grow up and having more of, that sense of humor. Because having a sense of humor is a great attribute to have as an adult. If you talk to people about what attracts you to that person, usually in the top 3 is, oh, their sense of humor. So this isn't something that we want to suppress. It's something that we want to encourage. Communication. One of the things I think that I've always encouraged, is having great communication with my kids. And so sometimes in that, you got to teach them how to be a communicator. So teach them how to have conversations, teach them not to be afraid. I mean, I was taking my daughter to big conferences and meeting CEOs when she was 3. And so it's okay. And so I taught her how to say hello and don't be afraid to talk, and no, don't be shy, and shake their hand and look them in the eye when you shake somebody's hand and smile and say, hi, I'm so-and-so. And so I taught her how to do that very young at 3. And so then she was able to do that for the rest of her life. And now it's served her very well in many, many different circumstances. So teach them to communicate with others in that way. Teach them to articulate. So sometimes we have to allow them to have a voice. So many times I see parents and kids are in situations and the kid starts to talk and they say, okay, run along, so-and-so, or we're going to talk now. And so you've got to allow them. You don't want them to manipulate a conversation or just be in there the whole time. But you've got to allow children to learn to communicate with other adults. It's how they learn to have good conversations. So don't exclude them from those conversations. The other thing is you want to make communication open between the two of you. So, I say to parents a lot, you've got to let your kids trust you so that when they say something that maybe you just want to blow the roof off the house because you can't believe they're telling you that this happened, it's got to be a safe zone. Take a deep breath and you got to say, okay, well, what did you learn from that? Instead of me going, I cannot believe you did that. Because then they're never going to feel safe to tell you on another time they messed up. So communication is learning to communicate with you about and being safe and being able to trust you. But at the same time, there's also learning communication skills with other individuals, and that they can hold their own in a conversation. How many, young adults do you see that can't really carry on a good conversation? It's because they were never really taught how to have good conversations or being allowed to test the waters in good conversation. So I always allowed my daughter to, tell a story or tell somebody, of adults, or tell them about what you did yesterday. And so then they do. And like, it might not be the best way, but they learn from telling that. And then as my daughter got just a little bit older, and I'm talking like 10, like, I would say, okay, and here's some great ways to tell a story, and so that it doesn't go so long, and like teaching them how to communicate or articulate and not go down a rabbit hole. Like, we don't want to go down a rabbit hole. And so then they learn to, like, okay, how can I make that conversation get to the meaning of the conversation? But I didn't do that when she was really little. I waited till she got a little bit older and then taught just a little bit of things. And then as she got older yet, I taught her even more in storytelling and getting to a point and articulating how your emotions or how you're feeling. And she's very good at that now. But it didn't start when she got older. It started when she was 4. And I allowed her to participate in the conversation. That is an important piece. The next one is integrity, modeling and encourage honesty and strong moral principles. Do the right thing when no one else is looking. Like, if you can instill that in your child, like, it doesn't matter where anybody knows it or not, it's, it. And so we have to try to teach them what is the right thing. But a lot of times that's through modeling. It's not through telling. So your actions need to speak as loud as your words or louder than your words. So remember that. I might be saying one thing, but what am I modeling for my child? What is my behavior? Say, am I like taking something from somebody and going, well, they'll never know? Or, you know what, it's okay if we take that because there's nobody here right now. No, you always have to do, that's the one thing is try to live by, is do the right thing when nobody's looking. Because if you will just live by that one simple principle and teaching, no, you don't want to do that. Well, nobody's going to know. Well, we know, you'll know. And so that matters. And how is that going to make the person feel later when they come back and they find it's gone or that it's not yours? This is a silly thing, and I'm not even going to go there. I was going to tell a story, but it doesn't even matter. So it is just important. Do the right thing when nobody is looking. If you can teach your kids that, they will grow up with a sense of integrity and what's important and what matters. And it doesn't matter whether you get caught or you don't get caught. That's what it comes down to. But is it the right thing? Well, it's going to be a deficit to somebody. Whether you're getting caught in it right now or not, that's going to matter to that person. That's going to matter later down the road when that person comes back and they no longer have this, or they are missing this, or whatever the case is. So that's an important piece to teach kids. Responsibility, empowering children to own their own chores, their own things. Like I think it's irresponsible for us not to give children any responsibilities at all, because then they don't grow up and they don't learn. They don't learn how to pack a suitcase. They don't learn how to, we were always on the go. We were always traveling. And so from a very young age, I would say, okay, go pack your suitcase. And it's a 3-day event. It's a 4-day event. I'm talking when they're really little. It's a 4-day event. So that means 4 socks, 4 underwear, 4 shirts, 4 pants. And so I would let her pack all of her own stuff. And then I'd go in there and check it. And sometimes I'd move a few things around. And I might even do it after she went to bed and just add a few things to it. Or I would say, you know what, let's put this here with this. This is probably going to be better or make a better choice. And you did a great job. But how about if we just switch this out for this? But I taught her how to pack for a trip at probably about 3 years old. And so now she knows how to pack for just about anything as an adult. And so she can do it quickly. Like, that's the other thing you learn to be able to be ready and do it quickly. So what are some other things? Like, you teach them how to do their own laundry. Why? Because you can't, or you don't want to have that time for them? No, so they learn how when they grow up. So like we kind of always just everybody did their own laundry, and then they took care of that. And so then everybody kind of learned that. And would I help out sometimes? Of course. Of course. But when you do everything for kids and you don't give them any chores at all, then they don't grow up learning how to keep a room clean. They don't learn how to help out with the kitchen or unloading a dishwasher. Like, I think some people feel like, well, I shouldn't put that on my children. I remember one time my daughter and her room was just such a mess. And we had cleaning ladies that came in, and she goes, oh, the cleaning lady will do it. I was like, oh, no. I go, that is not her job to take care of your room. And so then we just had to have a big discussion about that, because it was like, no, we're not taking this attitude that somebody else is going to do that for you, or that you have an entitlement. So we nipped that in the bud really quick. And then I started saying to my cleaning ladies, like, you're here to clean. You are not going to organize her entire room. Stop doing it. And they were like, okay. And so that was the end of that. So that's where you have to step in and just say, what am I teaching them? To be entitled? No. Like, you need to be responsible for your own things. So chores is important, responsibility, choices, actions, which brings us to the next thing, is teaching kids how to make decisions, conscious choices. And when we always just tell kids what they need to do, or, well, what do you want to do? Or what are you going to do with this? Like, give kids choices. Like, I remember my daughter sometimes crying because she wanted something. And I'd say, okay, you have two choices. You can either do this or you can do this. But I want to do this. That's not one of your choices. So again, you get to choose. It's entirely up to you, but here are your choices. And so it's teaching them to make what? Good choices. Teaching them how to make a decision. Do you know how many adults grow up and can't make any decisions at all? And like, decision fatigue is real, and they can't even, I mean, when we built this house, my builder said to me, I said, I can only give you Wednesdays. You get every Wednesday with me. That's the day I have off, and that's what you get. And we will build this house on Wednesdays. And he was like, what? I mean, like, I could tell he was like, and I said, don't worry, we'll get it done. Every Wednesday, you just figure out, what do you want me to choose and pick out, and what do I need to make decisions about, and we will do it every Wednesday. When you get Wednesday, you show up here at 8:30 in the morning, and you've got me all day on Wednesday. It's yours. So he was like, okay. And when we completed the house, he said, I have never, ever worked with a client that was as decisive as you were. When you told me we only have Wednesdays, I thought, oh my gosh, it's going to be like other clients I have that can't decide what cabinets they want, what flooring they want, what this they want. And then I thought, we're going to be weeks like spending every Wednesday hunting for it. But he would say, okay, today's docket is windows. Okay, let's pick out some windows. So like, we got that, and it's a big house and there's a lot of windows. And I told him, I know what windows I want. And he was like, well, let's go look at these first, because it was within whatever budget. And I said, look, I'm willing to blow the budget in two areas, and one is windows. So we might as well go get the windows. Let's go look at the windows I want. He really wanted me to look at these other windows first. But then we ended up going with where I wanted to go, and we picked out all of our windows, and it was a done deal in that day. And that is learning. And so that that comes from being given choices. So you can't always just get what you want, and then you can't always just choose and decide for your kids. No, you're going here. I don't care what you want. We're going here. Instead, I would always say, okay, well, these are your two choices. It is this or it is this. That's not one of your choices. So which of those two would you like to pick? So then they would have to sit and think about it. Which would be better for them? What are they willing to do? So then they'd pick, and I'd say, great. All right, let's go. So, and that's what we would go with. And I did that with everything. Okay, you've got two choices now. And so I'd let them learn to think it through and say, okay, this is a better choice, I think, for me. Great, let's go. Because if you always tell kids everything that they're doing and what they're going to have and picking everything out for them forever, they're not going to learn how to make decisions and how to make really good choices. All right, we've got two more. Full expression of emotions. Don't suppress the emotions in children. Like, don't cry. Oh, you don't need to cry. Like, if they feel like crying, they can cry. Sometimes when my daughter would cry, I would let her cry and then say, okay, I think now we've got all of that out of our system. Now let's move on and let's do this, or let's come up with a solution now. Like, you just teach them, like, you can cry and you can be sad. Okay, but now how are we moving forward from this? What are we doing now? And so if they're really happy, don't suppress their laughter. Don't suppress them, being whatever. Don't suppress their anger. If they're angry about something, talk it out with them. I'm just so angry. Okay, what is causing this? Where is it coming from? Why are you feeling this way? And sometimes you can have, talk it out, but you're letting them understand their emotions. But one of the biggest things I see with people is, oh, you don't need to cry. Don't cry. Don't cry. Like, we teach people, especially in boys, like, it's bad to cry. And so then they grow up not having, like, being able to express any emotions whatsoever. Happy, joy, sad, mad. Like, these are all emotions that we want to be allowed to have children be allowed to express those, so they learn how to deal with them. How can you learn to deal with any of those things if you're never allowed to be any of those things? And the last one is abundance, instilling a sense of, like, gratitude for the things that they do have. Teaching them about they don't need everything. Like, sometimes with my daughter, I would say, I really want this. I'm like, okay, I understand that you really want it, but is this something, what are you going to really do with it? Is it something you really need? Why do you really want it? And so then after we answered those questions, she was like, yeah, I don't really, I don't really want it that bad. Or I'd say, okay, you can't get both of these, so you got a choice. And, like, what do you really want? And so it allowed her to kind of decide, like, of what's important. And then having gratitude for the things that they do have. Having gratitude in a sense of abundance, and you certainly don't want to instill a scarcity mindset. So this is a fine line in here, but we can teach kids to have a sense of gratitude so that they grow up with a sense of gratitude, which is going to help them to what? Have a healthier, positive attitude in life. So I love this book so much. It's an older book. It's still on the market. I looked it up, but these are some really great, I think, attributes to raise your kids with. I know that I tried to instill as many of these as I could, especially with my daughter. And I have to say that she has grown into just a really lovely human being. Like, and I get told that all the time. Wow, she's something. Like, because she can carry herself in a conversation with people. She can articulate herself in a particular way. She's got an incredible work ethic and goes after her dreams. And for her, there has never been a dream that is, like, too big, because I've taught her to dream big. You can't limit your possibilities. Like, that's the other thing. I think that's not on this list, but man, we have to teach kids to dream and allow them to daydream big and to think, to have big possibilities, so that they grow up with really great vision of what's possible and not limitations. We shouldn't put limitations on kids. So that's it. That's all I've got for you. And hope that was helpful, especially for new parents out there, or maybe even if you maybe didn't do it all right the first time and now you're a grandparent for the first time, guess what? You can instill these same things in your grandchildren. And you can be the person who is the influence. This could even be for, other children that you might have in your life. You might be an aunt or an uncle. So like what influence can you have in shaping a child into an amazing adult? So thanks everyone, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you tomorrow.